is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news and intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversations. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
And welcome to another edition of Guardian Radio Today with your host, Dr. Cleveland W. Eneas III, also known as Kahun Anku Sarah. I'm happy to be with you on a Friday, and it's a beautiful Friday. I pray everyone is enjoying their day, and I hope you ain't duck out on work yet. You know, it's Friday, but hey, I pray if you are working or you're not working, that you are listening to 96.9 Guardian Radio. Fresh news, smart talk all day. The numbers today, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, and the Family Violence, 242-300-5720. Of course, the Guardian Radio text line is powered by BTC. That's 422-4796, 422-4796. Of course, standard text rates do apply. We're streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com. Or you can also check us out on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 or BTC Flow Channel 612. Today is an open line, and there's obviously a lot going on in the news and generally around the world. And so I think at the 3 o'clock hour, we will have our special guest, Dr. Rudolph Tinker. He'll chime in the second hour. But in any event, we are going to have an open line. So as I pay attention to what's going on, like many of you, obviously we see, in the paper, there's this whole idea of the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the present government. They had this whole arbitration, and it seems as if the government has gotten at least a shoe in or a foot into Freeport. But today we see where Mr. Haywood is pushing back and saying he's not a paper Bahamian, and he and his family are generational Bahamians, etc., etc. Freeport is very, very interesting. My mother lives in Freeport. I grew up in Freeport. Every summer, every Christmas, every Easter, I was in Freeport with my mother, and Freeport was always well laid out. We give Freeport that, well laid out. But I've never lived in Freeport as an adult. And so to hear some of the, cries of some of the people, especially as it pertains to power and some other things, this is definitely on the table for discussion. I don't know how you all are feeling about it with regard to how it affects our day-to-day, but a lot with regard to how the country is being run is on the table, right? When we look at this whole situation, and of course this is in the midst of a war, right? There's a whole war going on, but this arbitration, I was confused at first, because I'm still not fully apprised of the whole benefits or lack thereof. But this whole arbitration between the Grand Bahama Port Authority, the Bahamas government, they say it had a mixed outcome, right? Some people are saying the government didn't really gain anything, and others are saying that they did. But this tribunal ruled that the Grand Bahama Port Authority must make annual payments to the government until 2054. Rejecting the Grand Bahama Port Authority is a claim to exclusive authority over Freeport. Now that's, this whole thing about the Hawksbill Agreement and, how that came about. I mean, this is a good opportunity for people to go back into the archives and just understand what the Hawksbill Agreement is and actually meant or means to the Bahamas. And so I want to pause for a second, right? Because I want to look at it, right? And then see if it's normal for a Bahamian family to own a city, that kind of way. But this Hawksbill Agreement, right, is a pivotal document. It was signed on August 4th, 1955, between the government of the Bahamas and Wallace Groves, establishing a city and free trade zone on Grand Bahama Island. This agreement created the Grand Bahama Port Authority to develop and administer the land, giving birth to the city of Freeport. Now, there are key aspects of this agreement. There's a land grant, 50,000 acres of land initially granted to the Grand Bahama Port Authority, later extended to 138,000 acres. There were tax concessions, substantial tax exemptions for financial, commercial, and enterprises until 1985, extended to 2054, the same 2054, that the government is talking about having the Grand Bahama Port Authority pay the government until 2054. All right, infrastructure development. So, we always said when we went to Freeport, my sister and I, the roads were nicer, and Freeport is really well laid out. But the Grand Bahama Port Authority was responsible for building a deep water harbor, airport, hospital, schools, and other amenities. Now, of course, I see it, Chris. I come right now, right? And you should call him. You should call in, bro. Right? The Port Authority administers the port area, providing municipal services and regulating commercial and residential development. Right? And then there's revenue sharing. The Port Authority pays an annual stipend to the government with provisions for reimbursement of certain expenses. The agreement has been amended over the years, including changes in 1960, 1966, and 1993 to encourage tourism and real estate development. Recent arbitration between the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the government has clarified certain aspects of the agreement, including the annual payment mechanism. All right. All right, my brother. I want I want to bring someone into this conversation who is chiming in. I'm going to send you a Zoom link, my brother. I'm going to send you a Zoom link because I want you to let me know if that's okay. I want you to come in on Zoom, right? Because we're seeing this information splashed all over the newspapers. And I think we really need to revisit and understand and what it means for the Bahamas. And call ICU. I'm going to get to you as well. But I want to just try to get someone in here on Zoom. All right? I gave you the Zoom link, my brother. So let me know when you chimed in. But let's go to the phone lines here on Guardian Radio today. Caller, you live.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm Pastor Simeon Hall.
How are you, sir?
Very well.
Good to hear your voice. Thanks.
I'm sorry I can't say your name. Tell me your name again.
My name is Dr. Cleveland W. Eneas III, also known as Kahun Anku Sarah.
Kahun Anku Sarah. Well, I'm 79 and these new names.
Sir, you can say Ecclesiasticus too. You can say Methuselah. But go ahead.
You. No, I want to commend you. I hear you sometimes.
Yes, sir.
And I hear your position and the church, the group that you're with.
The Holy Coptic Church.
I don't agree with some of the things I hear you espousing, but I like your ability to articulate what you say you believe in.
Yes,
and
sir.
I commend you.
Thank you very much, sir.
What I really want to say is you are the grandson of Dr. Cleveland Eneas.
Yes, I am.
Oh, I knew your grandfather well then.
Okay.
I knew some of that would be your father or your mother.
My
I
father
knew them all.
is Fritzy. That's Dr. Cleveland Eneas Jr. And my mother is Lori.
I knew. Who was?
So my father's sister, and my father and my uncle's sister is Agreda. Agreda.
Greta
Yes.
is who I knew also.
Yeah, she's a Carey now. She's Dr. Carey now. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I call their names because I knew them back in the 50s and 60s. Tell how old I am. But your grandfather, Dr. Cleveland Eneas, impacted my life.
Wow. Wow.
I went to his dentist thing there on Cockburn Street.
Yes.
When I was about 15 years old, I was chasing a girl on the back porch of Old Western.
Oh, Lord.
And I fell on the stick I was using, and he had me in his chair from then. But what he did is he taught me about Africa.
Wow.
He had an Afrocentric center that he espoused all over the Bahamas and the world.
Definitely.
I've been to Africa 5 different times.
Wow.
And that's where I got my Afrocentricity from that Dr. Cleveland Eneas. I just want to thank you.
Wow. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
He has influenced Bahamian science, Bahamian culture all over the world. And I thought every time I hear you, I hear a bit of Dentist Eneas, and I want to thank you publicly. Wow. I know I'm not on your subject today.
No, it's an open line. It's an open line. It's an open line. I was just putting some things on the table, so it's an open line today.
I'm a preacher with some distinction.
Yes, sir.
And I want to pay publicly tribute to the late Dr. Cleveland Eneas. I'll never forget him.
Wow.
How he inspired me and pushed me to go back to school, in fact. And by God's grace, I have done fairly well.
Wow. Wow, yes, you have. Yes, you have. You have impacted my life.
That's your grandfather.
Yes. I've listened to you, basically all my life. In some way, shape, or form.
God bless you, man.
Yes, sir.
I like what I do, and I'm retired now, but I'm still trying to lift the social consciousness of our people. And I hear you doing that with your perspective, and that's what we need, conscientization of our people.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm doing my best, and I stand on all of y'all's shoulders, because I understand that what I'm doing, many great men and women before me were doing the same thing. So I'm just trying to do my part.
Thank God for people like the late Dr. Cleveland Eneas. I'll never forget him.
Yes.
He encouraged me. I had dropped out of school at age 15.
Oh, wow.
A teacher told me I was incorrigible. I was incapable of learning and grasping academic concept. That's part of my story.
Wow.
But people like Cleveland Eneas, sitting in his chair through Cockburn Street, he told me, you should be smarter than the dumb people you hang around.
Sound like it.
And don't be dumb like the people under you. No. And I went back to night classes, and the rest is history for me. And God has blessed me, man. I wish you well. And
Thank you.
I like people who differ.
Yeah.
You have a different perspective from me, but you also have a sharp perspective. And I think that's what makes the world go round.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Bless you, man.
Bless you. Thank you very much. Wow, what a great call. I'm definitely grateful to hear from the great Simeon Hall. I see your son occasionally, the great chef, and I'm always happy when I see him as well. But yeah, my grandfather and my grandmother. It's hard for me to say or mention my grandfather without thinking about my grandmother, Muriel Eneas, because she was one who definitely, whatever he was a part of, she was somewhere in the mix. I might as well let you know. So thank you so much for that call. Yes, indeed. So trying to get another guest on Zoom. I can't see if he's up there or not. But he was sharing some information on this whole Grand Bahama Port Authority, Hawksbill Agreement, etc., whereby he says that Stafford Sands was the engineer of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. It was an important historical fact in this discussion. He was Grove's lawyer. Okay, all right. Well, I want you to call in. I mean, if you can call in or Zoom in, that'll be great. I think we have a call coming through here on Guardian Radio today. Let me just see. Okay, call you live.
Good day. How you doing, man?
I'm great, man. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I wanted to just find out your point of view, but then also just touch on the topic. The different islands have different economic models. Like in Andros with the Mennonites, they don't depend on tourism at all, and they're functioning and thriving. You have Long Island that deals with fishing. You had Spanish Wells. I don't know if Spanish Wells still do fishing themselves. Also, they had the mail boat, and then you have other communities that do fishing like Auckland's and one time ago Ragged Island before the Hurricane Dorian. So I just wanted to say, right, why is it that we are captivated and hand-strapped to this tourism model? Why not get away from that and develop what we have, our natural resources? This little story, there was a situation on Long Island, right? This is a story that I heard. And the teacher was over there, a male teacher, and he's telling the young student what to do. And he confronted the student and he said, why you don't listen to me? And the young student was about 12, 13 years old. He said, why should I listen to you?
Wow.
I have $40,000 on my account. How much you have?
Whoa.
And the teacher looked at him and he shook his head and he walked off because he said, man, this young man already know what he can do and different type things, and he already have his life together. So I just leave that story. I think that we should try to get away from the tourism model and develop our natural resources, and let every island develop themselves and develop a skill. Okay, man.
All right, thank you. I was just curious to know how the young man got the $40,000, like what industry he tapped into. Caller, I would say that we definitely, well, I don't see us abandoning the tourism model. I think we need to supplement it. I think we need to add to it because we've invested a lot to get to this point in tourism. I just don't think we need to, tourism and our financial services, obviously, they bear the load of our, I guess, GDP. But when you talk about the Mennonites, right, in Andros, and as I know it, they came in around 1983 or so, and what they've been able to do, and I stand to be corrected, right? But what they've been able to do by living off of the land, I think, is a model that we should be tapping into. You know, why is it that people who are coming into our country can find a way to live off of the land better than we as Bahamians are able to? In fact, we're depending in some cases on the Mennonites in Andros, to sustain ourselves. And so I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we are very colonized in our approach to life on the whole. The fact that our whole religious viewpoint and our means to salvation is a very colonized perspective, right? We don't do much Bible study, right? We do sermon study. There's a difference, right? We do sermon study. We don't really do Bible study, right? And so we don't get the full benefits of the Bible, right? If we are truly the children of the Most High, we should be living like the heirs to the kingdom. You understand? And so those like Dr. Miles Monroe, we just had Simeon Hall call in, and they talk about this African perspective. We don't put that at the forefront as we should. You understand? But we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to. I'm not gonna jump deep into it in this show unless somebody calls and asks the question. But Africa is the future. Africa is the future. I might as well let you know that. Everybody who knows what's going on globally understands that Africa by 2050 is gonna have we already have one of the youngest populations as far as and Africa is going to triple, sub-Saharan Africa anyway, is going to triple in size by the end of the century. So anybody who is trying to create a narrative outside of Africa is going to marginalize themselves. The Bahamas needs to stop going foot for foot behind a failing society. I'll just say that much. We need to stop going foot for foot behind a failing society and believing that it's salvation. All right? As far as the young man who told his teacher he didn't need to listen to him, I'll say this much. It's good that I pray he got the money, legally, right? But let me tell you something. Money in your bank account ain't worth the wisdom that could come from an elder. Because that $40,000 could go down to naught. And he could still not have the wisdom of an elder. So I had a student like that who had an unfortunate situation. And he actually got, I'm not going to say how he got the money, but it was legal. He did get it legally. And he had a lot of money to necessarily pay attention in school or even to finish school. But we encouraged him. And he did listen. And I've seen him periodically from time to time, working and doing things around here. But just because you have money in your bank account doesn't mean that you shouldn't listen to your elders. You know what I'm saying? But I appreciate the story, caller. Let's go back to the phone lines here on Guardian Radio today. Call you live.
Hey, how you saying, my brother?
Yeah, you make it true. Make it true.
Yeah. Chris Davis here, John Canoe II.
Yes, sir.
Of course, I have to be very careful. Of course, I have my own biases.
Yeah.
And I am a government employee, so I don't want to go too far.
Yeah.
In the bag. I have my son and my niece with me, so excuse me if you hear any background.
That's all right. I mean, they're healthy. That's good. Yes.
Yeah, just a few historical facts to get into.
Yeah.
So even when we look at the origin of the Hawksbill Agreement, right?
Right.
And we look at it's often accredited to Wallace Groves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Uncle, if you were doing such a big deal where you get all of these concessions, all of these tax breaks, all of this crown land, all of these things, would it be you writing the deal? Who would be the one writing the deal? Your attorney, right?
Yeah.
Who was Wallace Groves' attorney? His attorney was Stafford Sands. So I think that is a crucial point to make, particularly when we know the attitude of Stafford Sands, right? Now, when you even look at people like Wallace Groves and Jack Haywood, these men were ultra-conservatives, as you would call them, John Bull gentlemen of the empire. These men, as I said, were ultra-conservative men, okay? And so I don't like to just do conjecture. I like to use primary sources, right? And as I did with Stafford Sands, when I showed how he encouraged British officials to actually murder some of our ancestors during the Burma, make some quotes from the horse's mouth as well, right? And as I said, when we look at Jack Haywood in particular in this instance, and this is no attack on the present Haywoods that live now, though we do have many very old white-owned corporations, businesses that can be traced back to colonial times and even slavery in some cases. It doesn't necessarily mean that the people who are in charge now, though they may be their descendants and also, quote-unquote, white Bahamians, of course it doesn't mean that they also hold white supremacist sentiments, right? So I have to, first of all, make that clear. So this is not an attack. I think his name is Robert Haywood, or anything like that. However, when we analyze this, we do have to always go to the root, and we have to analyze these people. And Jack Haywood was an ultra-conservative, that's putting it kindly,
right.
Sort of British John Bull type, okay? So there's an article that was written by a person named Sansam Sanghera, right? And he was saying this in the 21st century. They're saying him talking in the 50s, 60s, or 70s, right? And he is waxing whimsical about the British Empire, how he wants to bring the British Empire back, okay? And just to give one or two. So one of his quotes, which is quite disturbing to me, I imagine myself as the Cecil John Rhodes of the 20th century.
Wow.
So anyone, right, okay? But we can go on to another, even more troubling quote. I'd bring back the national service. The national service, of course, in the context of colonization, these were the people that really brutalized Africans globally. These are the people who are responsible, for example, Igbo genocide in Nigeria, who are, in fact, our people. And that also spilled over to the Yoruba, who you yourself are directly descended from, right? And this is another quote from Jack Haywood. I'd bring back national service. I would bring back the scaffold. I'd bring back the cat o' nine tails. I would bring back the empire. Places like Sierra Leone and Nigeria were so much better off under British rule than they are now, okay? And so when we talk about these issues, you know, and of course the article also mentions, and the troubling part is after he made that Cecil John Rhodes comment, this was actually after the interviewer acknowledged that he did bring a lot of development to Grand Bahama, right? But when we look at the actual agreement and we see the concessions and we think of who the actual authors of, and then we see the sentiments still being expressed by Jack Haywood well into the 21st century, we then have to really analyze this, you know? And I think that sometimes, and perhaps deservedly so, payments are very pessimistic, right? But we can't talk about foreigners having it better, and then when it's sort of time for us to try to make amends to that, we don't support whoever the person might be that is attempting to lead the charge. And though I say it, and in my opinion, it's not even fully deserved when all of these things and remnants of white supremacy are considered, right? And again, I'll reiterate again, this does not mean that the people who are now in charge are these huge white supremacist bigots. But I will say this, if I come in your house and my grandfather take your house, Anku, and we live in the master bedroom and you're in the basement, and then I then find out all of these things that were done so nefariously, I mean, and I still saying, well, I still deserve to have the master bedroom in your house. You understand? You understand what I'm saying?
You must be reading my mind.
We have to really consider some of these things. And again, it's not an attack on any white man who's alive today, but these sentiments still exist. And white supremacy is very strong globally. But for some reason, we have this attitude like it doesn't exist, to the point where it's so normalized that people are brave enough to come out and make these statements without even acknowledging or having even the slightest shred of accountability of the harm some of their ancestors might have done during the colonial times when white supremacy was the order of the day.
Yeah. And I think it's great to contextualize this whole conversation by making sure we don't try to become revisionists of history. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Exactly.
we put forward this information so that people who have never heard this story or don't really understand what's going on can begin to gain some type of contact. So I'm happy that you are sharing what you have shared
and
with
for
us.
Context, if anyone wants to look further, you could see it. This article was initially published in the Financial Times, as a matter of fact. And these quotes from Stafford Sands are coming in 2003. So you can't say, oh, that's just how the Times was. This was in the 21st century when this man was saying these things, right? So I can't spend too much time. I don't want to take up too much time.
No,
so I'll just hang up and good work that you're doing, my brother and guardian on the whole. I'll just hang up and listen. Thanks,
Yes,
brother.
indeed. Yes, indeed. Anytime you start to talk about the realities of how things came into being in this country and globally, but more specifically to this conversation, that which is germane to this conversation, you can't talk about how these things came into play without discussing racism, white supremacy. Because racism, white supremacy is baked into how we became a country. Okay? When we became a country, the Bahamas, July 10th, 1973, all right, and still being a part of the Commonwealth, okay, you don't divorce yourself from racism, white supremacy when you have to swear to the king, his heirs, and his successors forevermore. You don't swear to the electorate. You don't swear to your constituents. You swear to the Commonwealth, where the wealth is not common. You understand? And so we have a family that owns Freeport. You know what I mean? That's that's what it is. All right, let's go back to the phone lines here on Guardian Radio today. Caller, you live. Caller going once.
Hello.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Great, man.
Good afternoon to you and also Guardian family.
Good afternoon.
I heard my mentor a moment ago, Bishop Hall.
Yes.
He's a great mentor of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Still many great sermons.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot that we can learn from him.
Sure, definitely.
I am also basically connected to the Ennis family, Godfrey Ennis.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a disagreement, but we still good friends.
Mm-hmm.
But as you alluded to what's happening in Freeport, I don't know much about it, and I will not get into the meat of that. But you have me so deep now in my Bible, I have to prepare myself. And I am now asking the question,
Mm-hmm.
how can a man function daily when he does not try to connect himself biblically? Finding himself in problems because he is at a point now that he is smarter than God, but not remembering the principle of God will never change. And we can look, and the great late Dr. Miles Monroe penned this song, "Oh, how they want a brand new world."
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know the song.
Yes, sir.
And I would say to each brother, if you're not biblically connected, please, there's nothing of effeminate about it. Do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, trust me, man is finding himself in problems because they believe now that they are smarter than God.
Mm-hmm.
I want to salute that Proverbs 12 and 4. She is a doctor, Dr. Dean.
Mm-hmm.
I want to salute her
Mm-hmm.
with the wealth of grace that she brings to your show the few times I... And something caught my attention on the research of marital, the research of sweethearting.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you missed it, but I did not miss it.
Mm-hmm.
On the show that she was in, and she was giving her little input as to what's going on in terms of sweethearting.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to myself, if the findings of that survey was negative or positive towards men, this country would have been like a storm pass over. But the survey was negative on the other end. And she was very fair.
Mm-hmm.
And none of her sisters, while she was on the show, if you remember well,
Mm-hmm.
she was very much disturbed that none of her sisters called in to
Yep.
give her a point. Did you remember that?
I do remember that.
I say no more.
Mm-hmm.
I salute her for her grace, and I salute her for her honesty. I consider her now a saved Proverbs 12 and 4 sister.
Right.
I will end on that note.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm sure she's listening, so I appreciate you calling. And Dr. Nyambi is definitely always welcome on this show, and she's one who she's just straightforward. That's why I bring her on the show. But let's go back to the phone lines here on Guardian Radio today. Call you live.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm great, man.
Excellent. One of the fundamental things that I like to, when I saw the letter that gentleman wrote to the Prime Minister of the government,
Rupert Haywood, yeah.
Right. Was, I think personally, I think he should have just left it without responding in that way. I think that it was something that, should have been left because...
He had to get his leg back.
Yeah, but he doesn't realize that Bahamians, they look at things in a very, as you were saying earlier, not the way that we think, without trying to be as sensitive as I possibly can.
Yeah.
We look at it as as a black, white type situation.
Yeah.
A family that someone who's born into wealth, someone who doesn't understand the
ain't no black family doing that in this country.
No.
All right.
None.
Let's just call it what it is.
And that's why I said that I thought that he should not have even said anything because now he's left himself kind of open to saying, bro, what you talking about?
Yeah.
You ain't know this and you ain't know that. And you never know what a hard day is. You forget the history of your family, how in Freeport, the black people had to stay behind a gate in 8 Mile Rock and those areas. When sun go down, they had to go. And a lot of Bahamian people don't even know the history of Freeport and Grand Bahama, where they couldn't even go into the city, and they had to go and live in 8 Mile Rock. And there was a literally here some of the stories to know what was going on from what I know as my people tell my seniors telling us and how life used to be. And I think you should really kind of sit small and not even mention that. And then secondly, when you go so far as to think about the fact that you're so concerned about the Bahamas, the Grand Bahamians, but yet you asking for $1 billion from the Bahamas.
Exactly. A countersuit. They asking
a countersuit for $1 billion.
Right. They asking for $357 million. You ask for $1 billion.
For $1 billion.
Yeah.
You understand? So how much concern are you actually about the development of Freeport? How much are you concerned about the development of the Bahamian society? How much are you actually a part of this society where you understand the nitty-gritties of what's going on? Anyhow, just thought I'd just mention
that. It's a great point. It's a great point. I had to really stop myself from just going, okay, what is this a spoiled brat commenting? I'm not calling him a spoiled brat, but I had to ask. You understand? Like, who gets to write the prime minister a letter? Right? And, like you own the city. All right, let's go back to the phone lines here on Guardian Radio today. Call you live. All right, caller going once, and I have some facts here I'm going to share about Freeport. Right, the Hawksbill Creek agreement signed in 1955 brought significant changes to Freeport, Grand Bahama, but also perpetuated racial segregation and discrimination. Here are some examples of racism during that time. Segregated beaches and facilities. Lucaya Beach, a popular tourist spot, was initially reserved for white tourists, while black tourists were restricted to the less desirable areas. Racially restrictive covenants. Many properties in Freeport and covenants that prohibited sales of color, limiting opportunities for black Bahamians to own homes or businesses. There were limited job opportunities. Black Bahamians faced restricted access to better paying jobs, with many relegated to menial and service positions. There were separate schools and services. Schools and other services were often segregated, perpetuating inequality and limiting opportunities for black students. There were discriminatory practices. Blacks faced discrimination in accessing hotels, restaurants, and other establishments, which were often whites only. All right? These practices reflected the broader racial tensions and segregation prevalent in the Bahamas during the 20th century. The Hawksbill Creek Agreement, while driving economic growth, did little to address these deep-seated issues. All right? So there's a lot to uncover here. Let's go back to the phone lines here on Guardian Radio today. Caller, you live.
Yeah, Uncle, how you doing? See Alan Transit.
My brother, how you doing?
There's the Grand Bahama or Freeport deal is been considered a spectrum, and everybody has one color of the spectrum in argument. If you want to look at the true aspect of the Hawksbill Agreement before it even existed, We could go back to Wallace Grove and his wife Georgette. We could go back to the Christies. We could go back to Harry Oates. We could go back to Cuba, and all of these different things. And so when you start, unless you go back to the impetus of it and the existence of things in the Bahamas and the Cuban Revolution and all of these, the concept of the shadow of evil and the island of the sun and all of these different things, and tie them all in. You know, I told people I'm cursed with a good memory. and having been born to a father who was friends of Wallace Grove, having he been born in the Berry Island, I have my father, right? I just want you to stop for a minute and consider where I could say my grandmother was born before 1850 or so. Okay? I want you to show you the spectrum. I'm a son of an old man, like an older man at the time. He was older than, but contemporaries and supporters, financially and otherwise, of Taylor, Stevenson, Cartwright, and those that led to the creation of the PLT from Long Island, since Long Island. And so I know my history. I know my history from Long Island. I know my history from the Berry Islands. I know my history from Cat Island. No one can tell me what it is. And, being born to a father that also possessed the ability to recall a memory, give me stories. In the same capacity, my mother also gave me stories because she taught me to think, right? And to trust, but always verify. And, you would take a couple of shows for us to give you the true impetus behind the creation of the New World Riviera. But even now I see when everybody talks about Sajak, no one mentions who came before Sajak. And that was his father. Because his father was the one who existed before Sajak, and his name was Sir Charles William Haywood. And he was the one with Wallace Groves and the other individuals in New Providence that who was government at the time and involved that brought about this. There's no one individual, but it's a whole lot of stories. And the stories of Wallace Groves. And a lot of people, there's a story of Wallace Groves that has been told, right, in the public domain. Then there's a story of Wallace Groves that is known in the private domain. And even that itself, not Wallace Grove, Harry Oakes, I'm talking about.
Right.
There's a story of Harry Oakes that is told in the public, and there's a story of Harry Oakes that is known in the private, right? And believe it or not, that's directly tied into the creation of the city of Freeport. A lot of people don't even know the Grand Bahama Port Authority that we know today in 1955, but we also often intermingle it with the Grand Bahama Development Company, which happened to be a separate company that existed since 1925 with a 99-year lease that extends way out of Freeport. And so ask the average person on how the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the Grand Bahama Development Company became synonymous as one and the same.
Because we don't teach this stuff.
Right. And so, and so there's so much to unwrap to the truth of who we are. And so there's always one spectrum being told when the fullness of the rainbow or the prism is not a color, it's a combination of colors. And so our history is the prism, and each one is telling it through the color of the lens they see. And so I heard Davis, I think it was, talk about, Freeport, but you have to go all back to combine a multiplicity of things that's involved. In fact, how many people know that there was Congress had a hearing on Freeport? There's a in the archives, just search for Grand Bahama, concerning Meyer Lansky and all these other different things, and so we're directly related to Cuba, and so it's so much little pieces and so much side stories that you always have one aspect of it. And so I know that people look at Rupert Hayward at this time, but then you have to go back to his father, right, and then to his grandfather, and then to his great grandfather, and then that will take you into the early 1800s. because my father and his father was born. I want you to listen to this. My father and his great-grandfather was born around the same time.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
So I'm saying it. So just to give you an example, right? When my twin and I we took the common entrance for government high school, and because we were not old enough, I think you had to be 10 or something to go at that time. I remember going there and really passing probably by almost 100%. And I went to Wilton Aubrey Primary for like about 6 months, maybe a year. And then they kept giving us these different grades until they said, y'all guys, y'all should be in the government high school. We took the exam. I remember passing, and the principal telling my mother that we were too young. I remember walking from government high school to the superintendent's office, and my mother sat down with him and argued. And the superintendent said to her that if he does it for us, he would have to do it for everybody else.
Wow.
Okay? So, and I wish we could actually know the full history and truth that's going to be buried that so many people die off. I know that I've made records and stories and stuff so that my children and grandchildren and those related to me have this story.
Yeah.
But I'm simply saying this. Let me understand this, right? There's this masterful statement that we practice in my house, and we want to build a better Bahamas, right? And it has to be through the spectrum of truth. It says that you cannot manage what you cannot measure, but you cannot measure what you refuse to acknowledge. And that brings us right to this concept that we're having right now on the fight with the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Let me summarize it. The government of the Bahamas went and asked for $357 million. Their case was summarily dismissed and dead, nothing. That case was done. That was taken off the table. The Grand Bahama Port Authority brought 8 things to the table. Okay? 7 of them was killed instantly, dead. They were dead on the route before they reached.
Right.
Okay? That left one thing on the table, and that's the bylaws, for which the tribunal says that y'all go and determine what damages is. That's what's on the table today. Not all of this other stories we're going about. Okay? The point, and that's very important at this point. Then they also said to the government, your case was dismissed because it was brought here on the wrong things. Almost like they say it's dismissed without prejudice, meaning that you could bring it back up again, except when you come back, make sure you use the 1994 thing. So it wasn't like they say, oh, you owe it this and that, because when you look at the concept of what it said, it says that the government spends a certain amount of money and then expect to recover that revenue from taxes from the development of Freeport. And the failure for the government to reach this threshold, you have to pay us the difference if we present a bill to you within a certain amount of time. That's it. You don't have to add all this thing to what it is, because if we don't know what it is that we're going to be working with from this point forward, we can't fix it. And so, yes, the government can now begin going forward to invoke the 1994 to look for the expenses executed and the monies recovered. Okay, good. That's absolute. But it now brought us clarity, right? I hear an MP from Freeport using these exact same words that I used on the Guardian on the first day of this, right? It brought clarity. But with the clarity now, with the race wars, race baiting, because we can have that discussion, but Freeport is on the table. Freeport, what's new, what's next is on the table. Without that, we now know who has the ability to make the decisions for Freeport, Grand Bahama, and the Bahamas. And so when we begin these other side conversations, right, it takes away from people. From March 3rd, on the day that this document was released to the public in the Bahamas, made 23 years of my advocacy for the correction of exactly what happened. And you could go to the 2016 report and everything and see in that report from the PLP where myself and others pointed them to the 1994 agreement. Okay? So 23 years. So, for people who want to come for me, tell them come for me so I could talk about the Royal Commission report, the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, and all these other things that are associated with it. But we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity now that we know where the responsibility lies, to look at what it says right now and the failures of multiple governments since 1999 to today. And then we look at where we are into your respective position of accepting responsibility for what you must do today, going forward. Okay? And let's build a better Bahamas. That's all it takes. But to look back and try to, for political reasons, try to save face and everything else, is disingenuous. It shows that you seemingly don't know what you're trying to manage because you have not taken the time to measure it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. These type of conversations, they're always going to bring up what could appear to be side conversations. But also, I think what conversations that I feel want to contextualize the conversation. These things are not happening in a vacuum. These things are not happening in a vacuum. I think one of the biggest problems we have in this country is that we choose not to talk about race. In fact, let me address this texter here. All right. Whatever happened to One Bahamas? That's a great question, texter, because if you have to ask about what happened to it, that means it ain't happened, right? So much racism on the radio shows nowadays. I don't think there is one person in the Bahamas today. I don't know how they sound. This how I think they sound. This is me thinking, putting their voice. This how their voice sound in my head. So much racism on the radio shows nowadays. I don't think there is one person in the Bahamas today who agrees with slavery. Discussing this subject daily seems to be aimed at division instead of unity. Where is this unity that you're talking about, Texter? I'm on the radio and you point at what actually is happening in the country. You blame the person who is pointing at what's happening in the country as opposed to actually looking at what's happening in the country. So there's this paper I pulled up. All right. College of the Bahamas Research Journal, Volume 15, 2009. K.A. Russell, Race in the Bahamas, a Dysfunctional Narrative, right? Just want to share something in here that I think is important to share at this point. The writer goes on to say, whiteness cannot have such a grotesque legacy among people of African descent and continue to be depicted in our national narratives as pure. Let me say that again. Whiteness cannot have such a grotesque legacy. Slavery is a grotesque legacy. Colonialism is a grotesque legacy. And these agreements were being made around this grotesque legacy. And so when you choose to ignore the grotesque legacy, it's a spit in our face. It's a slap in our face. It's a stomp in our face. And when I talk about it, because it hasn't stopped affecting me yet, it hasn't stopped affecting my genes yet and my legacy yet, and you want to talk about One Bahamas, I ask you to please take your head from out of you know where what. Because you're talking foolishness. All right? It is the paramount obstacle on the road to social cohesiveness towards One Bahamas. We can't get to One Bahamas because you don't want to talk about things. Because you want to act like it never happened. That's the problem. We're going to a break here on Guardian Radio today. When we come back, I think we may have Dr. Rudolph Tinker and his pastor, Dr. Cleveland W. Eneas III, also known as Kahun Anku Sarah. We're going to take some more calls and texts after this. Keep it locked.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news and intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversations. 96.9 FM.
And we're back here on Guardian Radio. Pastor Dr. Cleveland W. Eneas III, also known as Kahun Anku Sarah. I had to say it slow for the elder, Bishop Simeon Hall. I know he's listening. And I know you all are listening. I appreciate you all listening. I think we have our special guest on today, Dr. Rudolph Tinker. My brother, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Loud and
Oh,
clear.
very good. Very good. So the iPhone's working good then.
Yeah. It seems like clear than normal.
Yeah. Because I use this is Apple technology.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I had to run to a meeting, man. There's a big dispute over a data center that's being built next to a residence in the district that I'm running for. So
So you had to handle business. Yeah.
yeah, I had to go meet with some existing commissioners that are voting for it, just to get some clarity on why they're going that route. And we had to go with a handful of constituents to deal with that. So I had to take that opportunity,
Excellent. Bahamians doing great things around the world. And now Dr. Tinker doing one of those Bahamians doing great things right there in Florida. Dr. Tinker, we've been talking about the Grand Bahama Port Authority deal. We've been talking about, we didn't get to the war yet. That's why I was waiting for you. Or the effects of this war as you see it. But I want to get this call out of the way because they've been waiting from before. Yeah, so caller, you're live.
Hey, where's it, Doc?
Hey, how you doing, man? Thanks for calling.
Everything good.
Yeah.
I just want to get a little clarity on the racists, the white supreme racists back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That might cease. So far as looking at it this way, I think now what we're facing in this day and time is a black supremacist racist move.
I mean, black people who and I just trying to hear you out, right? The black supremacists, who do they act like? They act like black people or they act like white people?
No, they act like racist people.
No, but I'm trying
against themselves.
Okay, they're against themselves. Okay,
let me clear it up.
Go ahead.
I
got you. Okay.
You look at the FNM and the PLB and the coalition. Are they trying to make one another look good as Bahamians, as one set of people?
No, there's silly season now, so everybody
right. So
each
what
other
they
throat.
doing? They throwing jazz, racist jazz at one another. So they are not really helping the youth them to grow up loving one another. See, now, as a man of God, you, a man of God, even in the body of Christ, even in the body of Christ, you find a little touch of that racistness.
Of course.
So, I look at life like this now. When I was growing up, everybody did love one another. Everybody used to help one another.
When you grew up,
everybody used to look out for one another.
Which area you grew up in?
60s, 70s.
Okay.
The 80s.
Okay.
Around in that area there. Now, coming into the 90s, 2000, yeah, that's where you see that negative spirit kick in. Nobody looking out for their neighbors. Nobody looking out for one another. Everybody just about themselves and what they could get, not what we could get. See? So that's what I look at. And to me, it's a kind of racist spirit. What everybody is about themselves.
Right.
See? And it ain't just the white. Right now, the black dominating the area.
Okay.
So I just want to share that with you.
I appreciate the call.
And I'll sit back and listen to you and Dr. Tinker.
Sure.
God bless.
God bless. Before I bring Dr. Tinker back in, I appreciate the call. I think what we have to be very fair about when we're having these type of discussions, right, is the fact that everybody has their perspective. You said back in the day when you was growing up, everyone used to look out for each other, except for the fact that the 60s is when we had majority rule day. Like, that was one of the most racially tense periods in the country, right? So I think your perspective may have changed as you got older and you began to see some things differently. You understand? I think oftentimes when these type of conversations come up, it's easy to point and say, oh, well, black people are the ones who are the most racist. And I say, that's why I asked you in the conversation, who these black people acting like? They acting like a bunch of little Englishmen. So they have the mentality of little Englishmen. That's how racism, white supremacy works. Racism, white supremacy doesn't mean it's white people. It means that the systems that they have left behind are now being controlled by people who look like you and I as black people. You understand? So it's a very systemic reality, and it's things that we have to look at in a way that helps us to appreciate what's going on in this day and time right now. But you got to be brave to have that conversation. No pun intended, right? Let's go to our special guest today, though. So, Dr. Tinker, it's a lot going on in the world today. Since the last time we talked, I didn't know war was going on. I don't think no war was going on.
No.
But we have a war going on. I saw a lot. It's every day. There's new information. They're talking about, unconditional surrender, et cetera, et cetera. I find out from you, based on what you know. Obviously, this is going to change the landscape of the global economy and how things are going to be, just day to day. What are you seeing, Dr. Tinker?
So, this is one of my favorite areas. I've been teaching in this area. My undergrad was poli-sci, Middle Eastern Studies.
Wow.
My master's was poli-sci, Middle Eastern Studies, and I had another master's in international relations, but with a focus on China.
Okay.
So when you look at this, when you look at what's going on, right? When you look at it's the history plays already there. If you go back to 1979. Actually, let's go back to 1903. Oil was discovered, and I'm horrible with dates, but sometime around the early 1900s, I think oil was discovered in Iran. And when it was discovered in Iran, you had, I think it was either British Petroleum or whatever two companies that was there, they was hogging up all this oil. And at that particular time, Iran had a Shah, which was Reza Shah's father, powerfulest country in the Middle East.
Okay.
Because of the discovery of oil.
Right.
So England and the United States built up the Iranian military. Now, one thing keep in mind that what makes Iran different from the rest of the Arab countries is that the Iranians are Persians.
Yes.
They speak Persian, and also they're Islamic, but they're not Sunnis, they're Shiites. Which the Shiites believe in the second coming. They believe there's another prophet post Muhammad.
Okay.
The rest of the group, which is the majority of the groups, are the Arabs, like a Saddam Hussein or the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They're known as Sunnis.
Okay.
They don't believe no one else is coming
after Muhammad.
Already. After Muhammad. That's it. Muhammad is the last stop. Okay? So when you go back to that time period of the discovery of oil, Iran became very popular. Then there was push in Iran to get rid of the king. So the king of Iran, they call him the Shah, was exiled, and that had a little bit to do with the CIA. So the U.S. at that time supported the younger Shah, which his name was Reza Shah, which was the son of the king. And he went full-fledged in support with the U.S. in the West.
Okay.
That started to become very tense. And then he decided to, I'm not going to let the U.S. tell us who to sell our oil to. We're going to start nationalizing some of our oil because he was feeling the internal pressures from his people.
Right.
The U.S. said, hey, that's not going to work for us. So send CIA, have a little riots, and the Shah was toppled.
Okay.
They had an independent election, and they elected a guy called, I think it was Mohammed Mossadegh. His last name was Mossadegh. He was elected. In a free democratic election now. He was elected. And you would think the West would want this. But as soon as he was elected, I think he survived maybe a year, and he right away went to nationalizing the oil. For Iran having full control. The U.S. said, well, that's not going to work.
He ain't following the script.
He ain't following the script, man. So right after that, the U.S. supported the Ayatollah Khomeini. Overthrew this Mossadegh. He was hung somewhere in Tehran, and Ayatollah Khomeini came back to the country. He comes back to the country. The first thing he does, nationalize oil, shuts down the U.S. Embassy.
Wow. Okay.
Shuts down the U.S. Embassy, and then what happens? Saddam Hussein comes to the fold. He overthrew the king of Iraq. He became president of Iraq, and he said, hey, let me fight the Shiites. Let me fight the Persians. And Saddam Hussein got supported from the U.S., from England, and from the West. They became the third largest military in the world. And in 1979 from 1979 to 1989 was the Iran-Iraq War that lasted roughly for 10 years. And in this particular war, they fought tooth and nail for 10 years. No one really won that. But I say this to say that college kids, they were known as the Basiji or the Shahidis, which that means you're living on earth right now as a shaheed, but you're really dead already. These guys were taking bombs, strapping it to their bodies, running under Iraqi tanks, and blowing themselves up just to stop the Iraqi forces from penetrating Iran.
Wow.
So there's no ground game in Iran. Whatever you have to do, you got to do it from the sky. Same thing when we go back to World War II, when we look at Japan. The president at that time realized you can't go into Japan and fight them. He was known as the emperor. They had a living God on earth.
Yes.
So they had to drop 2 bombs in the city center and bring them to their core to end the war. In this case of Iran, there's no ground game. Sadly, what we see here, the Iranians have multiple layers of government. So even when you take out Khomeini, it doesn't end because there's a whole bunch of jokers in line. Same thing when we look at the U.S. line of succession. You got the president, and then you got 18 people beneath him that all ready to be president if the first 10 get takeouts.
Wow. Okay.
And that's known as the line of succession.
Yes.
Same thing over there. So when we look at the uniqueness of Iran, Iran has about 20% of the world's oil. That's strategic. And these countries realize to get us at a seat at the table, you got to have a nuclear weapon. Same thing with North Korea. Same thing with India, Pakistan. Same thing with Israel. The UK, some of the bigger European countries is Germany, France, the UK, Russia, China. You have a nuclear game, the power play is different. They don't just come and bomb you because they know, I got a nuke, and you got a nuke, and you attack me, well, I'm nuking you right away. So what this is doing to Iran right now, it's going to make them even more resilient that they have to get a nuclear weapon. That is the only way they can survive. Because you got to realize, Iran is almost an outcast country of the Middle East because they're the only minority Muslims.
Okay.
Because even within Islam, you have a sect. The sect is, the sect of mainstream Islam is the Shiites. And even under the Shiites, you have multiple sects within them, but they're the largest. They're the first largest offshoot of Islam is the Shiites.
Okay.
And you can find them in multiple countries. So now when we look at what's going on here and you see what they're doing, they're not trying to send a missile to D.C. They say, you know what? All you Middle Eastern countries that surround us, that has U.S. interests, we bombing y'all.
Right.
So y'all could put the pressure on the U.S. to tell them to back off.
Okay.
And Iran has finessed the drone. They're the largest makers of drone worldwide.
Iran is?
Iran. They've finessed the drone.
Wow.
And they have drones hiding in tunnels and under sea. So as you can see right now, there's not a soldier fight. There's an air fight and there's a drone fight.
Yeah.
There's no soldiers fighting right now because you don't want to go into Iran. That's Vietnam, that's Afghanistan, that's Korea. You don't win those things. You can't go in a man's backyard and expect to take him out. And Iran is also one of the largest land masses in the Middle East. So the strategy here, from what I'm seeing, they think, came out of the commander's mode. He wanted to strike Iran, and the people will come forward and liberate the country. That's not happening. Iran has so much layers of government.
And
okay?
their population is what, 9 million? roughly?
I think you gotta double check. I think it's a little more than that. And then,
Okay.
but one of the besides population, they were banking on the fact that Iran has 3 different ethnic groups within Iran. The Kurds being the largest groups, and they figured those people want autonomy, so they could probably split up the country. But the Kurds already got their lesson on what happened to them during Saddam Hussein when Saddam used nuclear weapons on them. They didn't get any support.
92 million. My bad. Way off.
Right.
92 million.
Right.
Almost
They were
93.
they were getting support. So they figured, you know what, we had better protection under a religious clerk than we would ever have on our own. So what you're seeing here now is that Iran is putting pressure on all the other little small Middle Eastern satellite states to put pressure on the U.S. and Israel to stop the bombing. And already in the U.S. I think before the 5th day of bombing or the 4th day of bombing, gas was $2.66. We're already up $1 a gallon.
Wow.
We're at $3.25. Some places are $4.40 for regular gas.
Right.
So we're seeing the effects of this immediately, but also we're feeling. I think the Republican Party is also seeing right now that people are not interested in what's going on over there. They're interested on the home front.
Yeah.
Now it just costs affordability to go up even higher.
Right.
Now the cost of energy is higher. The cost of food is higher because 35% of the world fertilizer comes through the Strait of Iran. That water.
Hormuz, I think it is. That
Yeah.
one? Yeah.
So if that gets blocked, guess what? Agriculture products go up sky high.
Wow.
Because now the farmers can't get their fertilizer.
Right.
You know, so I don't think this is going to last much longer because the United States Congress has not declared war. The U.S. Congress is separated. I mean, it's split, where you have Republicans coming over to the other side that went anti this conflict because they don't see that it's needed right now. They don't be a part of this.
Right.
Some of them think so. But the president has, under his power purview, he can take the military into war up to 10 days
Okay.
before Congress stop giving him money. So once that 10-day hit, in many cases, Congress will still give him money, but
They could pick and choose. I don't know if we just lost him.
we'll see what's going to happen then.
He's back. Yeah. But I wanted to also so here in the Bahamas, there's the chief operating officer of BPL, Anthony Christie. He says that fuel hedging will protect against volatility amid the Iran war. So they have a fuel hedging scheme that's supposed to help us to not feel these gas prices as much. Yeah.
Well, if we did last week, I doubt y'all ain't got no protection because we done going up $1 a gallon. Who's the Bahamas to say we want protection? I mean, we done going up $1, and the people they vote for the boy. They vote for the boy, and they get no protection. So y'all can say over there, y'all want protection. You can forget about that.
He told the media on the sidelines of an energy forum at Bahama yesterday that the power company is benefiting from a fuel hedging scheme that began a few months ago. Christie said, for now, BPL is protected from large price swings in fuel costs because of the hedge. Luckily, the company would have engaged the fuel hedging program the last few months, said Christie. So he's saying this, I don't know how long it lasts.
Well, that could work if he's in agreement for price protection, but price protection is voided when you have a war.
Wow.
It's like an insurance company. You got insurance on your house that protect you from hurricanes and natural elements, not from a bomb falling from the sky. That's not on the policy.
Yeah. Only acts of God.
Some God.
Boy, I see it.
Life insurance would protect you during a wartime.
Wow. Really?
You know what I
That's
mean?
happened to me? Wow.
Yeah, so very interesting the way we see the players now. There's 2 other actors that are very interesting recently. You have North Korea came out and said that if any one of their citizens are attacked, they're going to enter the war. And also that if Iran asks them for weapons, they're going to give Iran what they want. And I think the reason why Kim Jong is doing that is because, number one, the North Koreans, they want wartime experience. they don't have wartime experience. That's another reason they sent their troops to fight for Russia, to get that combat training. Because the North Korean soldiers are untested, untried, compared to American soldiers that always engage in something. So this is a good experience for them to get that experience. So now when you look at a country like North Korea stepping in and coming into the fold, that now raises further alarms. Well, there's a good chance that North Korea probably has a nuke, even though it's not declared. So they could be the one that comes into the party and slow it down. And then Russia and China, I think both of them just send some Navy forces to the region, and that will also escalate things because Russia has the world's largest arsenal of nuclear weapons. So if you hit a Russian ship, then you're really in trouble.
Yeah.
So I think that could bring this whole thing to clear opposition nuclear powers that are about to enter the race. And China has to take a part in this because now Iran and Venezuela were two oil delivery countries for China, and that puts China at extreme risk.
Right.
Now, where are we going to get this oil from if we lose Iran? Russia is giving you oil, but we don't want to be 100% reliant on Russia. You know, Russia has oil, but not as much as those two other countries that the U.S. is now bombing have. So there's definitely a lot of chess movements on the table, and people are trying to strategize now because with North Korea, Russia, and China in the play, they have to be very careful where those bombs drop, especially for the state of Israel. Because if Israel happens to even sneeze too wrong and it goes on Russia, China, or North Korea, they have no love for Israel. They will attack Israel immediately.
Wow. We got a call. We got a caller on the line. So I want to see what our callers have to ask you or share based on what you said. Caller, you live here on Guardian Radio today.
Hey, a pleasant good afternoon. How are you doing?
Hey, how you doing, my brother?
How you doing?
Hey, hanging in here, brother. What's up?
Right on, man. Interesting conversation. Just I got to going to your break, Uncle. It sounded like you was sounding off on something someone said to you.
Yeah, I was.
I missed that comment.
Yeah.
What you were expressing very strongly.
Yeah.
I guess based on whatever the person said.
Yeah.
I mean, just localizing the conversation. You know, I heard the pronouncement as well from the BPL COO. And, you know, I was a little comforted hearing him express that the country has entered into some type of hedging program that would isolate the BPL from the negative impacts of the cost increase. But the question would be for how long, right? For how long is what I'm wondering. The country would be isolated from the repercussions of the ongoing war, right? Also,
there's no guarantees, man.
No.
Right. And so I'm just wondering how long could we safely say, you know, because it's one thing to say that we have a hedging program. How long would that program be impactful to our benefit? And then another thing, listening to you and Professor Tinker, Uncle, and then trying to keep up with what's going on with global news. I'm thinking the tip of this war is just starting to heat up because what I'm seeing Iran is doing on the next side of what Professor Tinker has expressed is they are being strategic in their assaults or in their attacks, right? And they are in effect one of the most effective ways that any superpower has is through having access through its military bases and its launch capabilities around the world, right? And I see Iran being very strategic in attacking a lot of the U.S. ability to reach through to them and other neighboring countries that are a risk with the geopolitical approach, right? And as Professor Tinker expressed, I think at the final part of his input, which I completely agree with, where a lot of pressure is going to increase additionally, where other major powers, superpowers of the world are going to be impacted by access to their oil and placing them and their citizens at risk. And so that's another consideration which I don't know if the powers to be initially considered that and how the drawing in of these countries will play in the outcome of how long this war lasts and how far reaching this war will become. Because when
they thought, which is something that they used to use in the early 1900s, you take the king, you chop the head of the king off, the whole country collapse.
Right.
And that can't work in this scenario.
Right. And we saw that very early on where the UK decided they weren't going to allow the US access to their soil to use for strategic advantage.
You know why that is? Outside the Middle East, the UK has some of the most radical Islamists in the world that's in the UK. So if that would have happened, you would have had terrorist attacks all over the UK. So because they know what's in their backyard. So they don't want to piss they don't want to piss anybody off over there.
But listen here, Professor Tinker, and I'll go ahead and get on with this. When you look at all of these happenings, right? It comes back to something I like to say a lot. Your independence greatly depends on your ability to protect your citizens and your borders, right? And so, based on these realities and the times that we are living in, right? You have to choose. You cannot escape it as a small island nation or as a small island developing state. You must be wise in your support of your allies, because at the end of the day, when the stuff hits the ceiling, and you all know what I'm saying, right? I can't say that word, but when the stuff hits the ceiling, if you don't have someone in your corner that can protect your interest, your real interest, and the survival of your dog eat your lunch. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll continue listening. God
yes,
bless.
Indeed, Anton. Thank you so much. Dr. Tinker.
I figured that was Anton. I heard.
That was him.
Anton, man, if he had been give you a big job, I thought you would have been about faster by now.
Lord, you trying to cause trouble. The
term was a big advocate, man.
all the time. The term I was looking for as you were talking about these countries that have nukes, mutually assured destruction.
It's called MAD. Mutual assured destruction. But so funny, I just did a certificate on the nuclear non-proliferation, which discussed nuclear weapons. I did I think it was a 4-month certificate program I was studying live, and MAD still exists, but MAD, it ain't so mad anymore, because if too many actors have nuke, then you can't stop them. So MAD's out the door, because if you got now 6-7 countries with nuclear,
right,
then mutual assured destruction doesn't work anymore.
But there's only so much. Right? There's only.
Exactly. 28% land and 72% water. And,
right.
And, you know.
Right.
So again, this is basically a rebalancing of power act, because the U.S. maintained its supremacy because a lot of countries allow us to be the superpower. We couldn't fight the whole world.
No.
But countries allow us to keep that position because it keeps things balanced. It keeps the world out of trouble. You know what I mean? And the U.S. has deployability capabilities, like Anton said, having bases all over the place. I mean, the U.S. has more than 180-something embassies worldwide, over 200 and something consulates, bases in almost every continent. So no one has that capability. And with that capability, you're able to push foreign policy. You're able to push different changes around the world. I mean, the U.S. spends more money in defense more than many countries' GDP. So when you have that sort of might, you have a lot of bite and a lot of bark with it also, but you got to pay to play.
Right. The other thing I want to throw into this mix with this ongoing conflict is religious overtones now. They say the U.S. troops reportedly told that the war in Iran is intended to bring about biblical end times. Armageddon.
Yes, I heard that.
Yes.
I heard that.
Yes.
I heard that. I heard that, and that, and America, and that is just. I don't know how that slipped out, but that's not. It's grounded that there's separation of church and state when it comes to the U.S. government.
Now,
So
there's a
Go ahead.
there's a documentary I'm going to share with you, talking about this moral majority, right? And it's an Al Jazeera doc. I'm going to get the name in a second, but I want to bring it to our listeners' attention too when I do find it, because it talks about how this moral majority, like they're literally printing Bible verses on the guns. Right? They're literally having crusades after they get soldiers through their basic training, and before they send them off, they having crusades. So I'm gonna share the documentary when I get a second, but I want to run back to the phone lines here on Guardian Radio today. Call you live.
Hello.
How you doing? Thanks for calling.
Yeah, right here, man. Listen.
Mm-hmm.
The other day, Iran got all Israel. Their money didn't value anything. Ask Mr. Tinker how that goes.
Say it again.
Their currency didn't hardly value nothing much.
Whose currency? Whose
Israel,
currency?
right.
Whose currency?
Iran, the country who fighting the war. Their money didn't value, and they have all Israel. That's what I'm trying to figure out. The currency didn't value hardly nothing. So I don't know. The public can explain that. Yeah, thanks.
All right, Dr. Tinker, what say you? What was Iran?
I mean, listen, a country's currency is something we say in international political economy. It's their monetary policy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, China currency ain't worth nothing either. And China is one of the largest economies because they decide to deflate their currency to increase export.
Mm-hmm.
Iran could be deflating their currency to sell oil. So countries play with their monetary policy. It just depends on the situation. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You know, it depends on the situation. And if you look at China, for years, even under Obama and other presidents, they've demanded that China play fair and peg their currency to the right amount. But China said, hey, listen, this is our country. This is our monetary policy. We're going to reduce our currency because it increases our exports, because China controls their labor, which is very low.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it allows them to dominate the export market.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to the U.S., where our labor force is much high, we're not the biggest exporters of anything. Because it costs a lot of money. That's why even in the Bahamas, businesses are buying from China because they're getting it cheaper. Why is it cheaper? Because the currency is lower. You have more buying power with Bahamian dollar in China, whether it's converted to the U.S. first. But the China labor is very cheap. Same thing in India. Their labor, the labor force is so cheap down there, they can afford to export things much cheaper than you can in the Bahamas.
Right. The documentary is Praying for Armageddon, and there's one episode that talks about why evangelicals influence U.S. foreign policy.
The reason why they influence, I didn't read it, but I had to do this in my study. So there's an argument about the fact that if the Jews are not in the Holy Land and the second temple is not built, Christ will not return.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a Zionist approach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
And the argument is, if they built this second temple, when you look at where they want to build it, they want to build it right on the Abrahamic shrine, which is also the main shrine for the Muslims.
Yes. All them on the same spot.
Because they're the three monotheist religions: Christianity, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, where you have the Jews came first. They said, okay, well, our book stops at Moses. So we ain't believe nobody after Moses, because Moses took us out of the Red Sea and he just left us there. The Christians came and said, okay, well, I accept the Jews, but we're waiting on Christ to return. We ain't running on no Muhammad. And the Arabs, the Muslims came and said, okay, well, I accept the Christians as the people of the book. Jesus was a prophet. I also accept the book of the Torah, because Moses and all those guys were prophet too. But I'm sealing the deal. This is the end of the Trinity. Muhammad is the last prophet, and the only way to heaven is true believing and accepting that Muhammad's the last prophet. So the Jews don't accept the Christians and the Muslims. The Christian accept the Jews, not the Muslims, and the Muslims accept everybody. So,
Well,
it's one of those things.
It is, and that's a whole nother show. But we're gonna run to a break here on Guardian Radio today. I see you callers, I see you texters. We'll be back right after this. Keep it locked.
Struggling to find your financial rhythm? Make that move to Fidelity and let us help you orchestrate your financial goals into perfect harmony with free financial coaching sessions. Make that move today. Call 356-7764.
Fidelity, we're good for you.
Mommy, guess what I did in school today?
Hold on, sweetie. Mommy's sending a text.
But Mommy, my teacher said that you're not supposed to text and drive.
I know what I'm doing.
Oh, look, Mommy, the Smith twins. Mommy, watch out! In 2017, approximately 54 people died as a result of traffic accidents. A percentage of these fatalities occurred as a result of texting while driving. Just taking your eyes off the road for 5 seconds can increase your chance of crashing. Remember, even the smallest voice counts. Texting. Brought to you by UB Radio and Guardian Radio 96.9.
Always on the go? Missed the show? You can now listen to Guardian Radio talk shows anytime, anywhere on Spotify and YouTube by searching Guardian Radio 96.9 FM or by entering the name of your favorite to listen by logging on to GuardianTalkRadio.com and clicking on the podcast tab. Guardian Radio, continuing to provide you with fresh news and smart talk anywhere, anytime, all day.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And we're back here on Guardian Radio today with your host, Pastor Dr. Cleveland W. Enes III, also known as Kahun Anku Sarah. Our special guest today, Dr. Rudolph Tinker. And we've been talking this conflict, this global conflict, it's becoming a global conflict. And the Bahamas, we holding on to our little hedging scheme for as long as we could. As long as we could. But let's run back to the phone lines here in Guardian Radio today. Call you live.
Hey, Uncle.
Hey, see, I know Anton. This Anton right here now, Dr. Tinker.
I want to see if he get one contract with the CIA.
Look here, Professor Tinker.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. Look here.
Give you in a long time. I don't listen to the radio like I used to. I only come on now if I come on the show. But man, it's good to hear you, man.
Absolutely, it's always a pleasure, and let me just highlight. I always listen to yourself when you come on with Uncle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always tuning into conversations, whether I call in or not. I'm tuning into the conversations, right? Because I appreciate intellectual conversations the most, and those are the ones that I find the most stimulating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as it relates to my party. I all right.
They going into the second. They going into the second round. Don't let them jive you now.
On the eve of elections, Dr. Tinker, I'm still waiting. And I say that loud, but not proud.
They listening.
Yeah. Let me end with this, Uncle, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
I really appreciated where you and Dr. Tinker went with monetary policy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to add something as it relates to that. On the China front,
mm-hmm.
right? People have this misperception about China, right?
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the value of the dollar, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as Dr. Tinker pointed out, people deliberately manipulate their monetary policies based on what they are seeking to accomplish, right? China has a plan in place that has super advanced it over all producing nations on the planet, right? And they are the absolute leader, right? And every country, every major superpower on the planet is relying on them for production of various types of scores of types of materials, right? In order to make their countries run and satisfy the consumerism in their local economy, right? And I'll give you a prime example. Dr. Tinker, it'll be good for you to elaborate on this. The U.S. set out their policies with tariffs, right? But understand this, and I spoke about this from the beginning, and just as I spoke about, it's exactly how it's playing out. The U.S. would be by 4 to 5 times what it is right now in order for it to be in a position to cut out China as a manufacturer on a wholesale bulk scale, providing its citizenry with all of what they require, right? In order for them to successfully move on and leave China behind. That's not going to happen in our lifetime, right? And so I'll end with this right here, Uncle. And then on the flip side of their monetary policy, China has some of the most expensive land per square foot on the planet, next to New York, right? Next to Los Angeles, some of the most expensive on the planet. And so don't be mistaken by their dollar being valued what it is valued. Their population is the largest on the planet, but they also produce the most on the planet, and they have a workforce that is the absolute most prepared on the planet, no matter what area you look at. And so they have positioned themselves to always be in need by the world superpowers, and they will always stay ahead of the competition because they ain't easing up on that throttle. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
And he hit the nail on the head there. Like I talked about monetary policy, and that's a strategy. Now Obama, he was at them very hard and telling them they're not playing fair, because the problem is China dominates the competition by devaluing their currency. It allows them to export a lot, because people think, oh my God, listen, so it was Bill Clinton was the one that brought China into the WTO, the World Trade Organization, and allowed them to reach out to the world, because the argument with President Clinton was that if we don't get China now, someone else is going to get them. But President Clinton was saying, if we bring China into the WTO, even though they're communists, maybe when their people get exposed of the wealth and capitalism, it could destroy communism. Well, China say, hey, we can come into the WTO, but communism ain't going nowhere.
Not like that.
Right, not like that. So the end on this point is the fact that what he was saying was that the United States is not going to turn its back on China and stop doing business, because when Clinton brought the U.S. China into the WTO, one thing that happened drastically is U.S. manufacturing decreased enormously. And a lot of our manufacturing jobs, some of our simple, even telecommunication jobs, all went overseas. So we're in a position where we're not going to catch up. We're not going to catch up with tariffs. We're not going to catch up under this current president. We're going to have to deal with China for the longest time because we pay our people too much. This is the biggest problem. And if you want a dollar store, you need a China. Dollar stores can't exist without China.
Amen. Call you live here on Guardian Radio today.
Good afternoon, y'all doing?
Great, man. Thanks for calling.
Okay, I know we mustn't stop, Right now, America is trying to suffocate China or to just best in the best. We will never see China do a major product in this Bahamas as long as Trump in power. He is suffocating.
Say it again, caller. We'll never see China.
We'll never see China with major product in this Bahamas as long as Trump in power. He is bullying this Western himself and trying to keep China out from the influence what he's doing. Remember when she walked in here? When he said something about China, right? I relied on China, right?
I just about to say they about to build a hospital.
Exactly.
Right, so I'm saying he is suffocating China.
Sports center, British Colonial Hilton.
He's putting us in doing what he wants us to do. You know what I'm saying? And Richard, sometimes be careful, y'all, so you just may get it. Everybody talk about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is costing us major issues. You know what I'm saying? He
He say, "Make America great again." He ain't start off.
He would destroy every other nation to do that.
He didn't say how.
Listen, I'll tell the caller this. I mean, China grip right now in the Western Hemisphere is enormous. They're outpacing the United States probably 3-1. And you look at China has countries in the Caribbean like Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, you name it. They're voting on China's side in the UN against Taiwan because the amount of money China's already invested in these countries. You got countries in South America, Central America, where China has invested more than the country's GDP. They're causing deforestation in some areas because they're over farming, they're overcutting, they're overproducing. But some countries are so far gone in Chinese investment, there's no turning back for a lot of them. And that's why I keep saying to little Bahamas, you all want to keep saying down there, oh, well, the U.S., well, when y'all borrowing money from China, so who y'all think we is? We can borrow money too. Well, guess what? You think the little defense force down in Nassau could fight the Chinese? You can't stop the people coming out of Haiti, but you think you can stop China?
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to align with who's going to be your long-term strategic partner.
Not to mention the Chinese sending all kind of guys in right here, right now. all these build your dream.
See, the problem with our reliance on America is what keeping the U.S. the courses do what they want it to do. Remember climate change? The climate control, what our Prime Minister was so vocal in? Instead of ease up, because Trump don't believe in it.
You mean the carbon credits?
You see how the climate change, the whole thing. You see how our Prime Minister ease up of it because of Donald Trump and his view on it? Simply realign him. Donald Trump is using it to the max. He's using all his influence, and he's trying to the West Hemisphere. He got bullied in all West Hemisphere. That's the first thing you know. And he don't have a major foothold on the West Hemisphere as we speak. As it relates to sovereignty, we would never see a good sovereignty in this West Hemisphere long as Donald Trump in power.
But listen, you got to understand is that, okay, the countries in the Caribbean have sovereignty, independent sovereignty. They're member states of the United Nations, but the countries in the Caribbean they all have a rule, and they're known as developing countries. Developing countries don't have any authority at all when it comes to a major military power. You shut up and you get in line. That's all you do. Because if you ain't got no military and you ain't got no serious money to fight, what you can do? You see the president go to Venezuela.
Go join the military.
Right. You see the president go in the military, slap Maduro, slap his wife, throw them on a plane, and brought them in New York City. And Venezuela got a little military. But when you try to hang out with the big dogs, your sovereignty is based strong military powers allowing you to be sovereign. No matter what the UN says. The UN didn't sanction this war in Iran, but the big dogs of the United States and a strong country of Israel that has nuclear weapons say, hey, we can bomb you no matter what the UN says.
They control the Security Council anyway, so
they control this. They're on the Security Council.
Yeah.
Russia went into Ukraine without anyone's authority. You know what I mean? The United States went into Iraq without the UN support either. So the big countries have to say.
Right. Thank you so much, caller. Is that another caller? Okay, thank you. Yeah. So, like Professor Tinker is saying, I mean, the most we could do is go join one army.
Country needs to know, especially small nation states, they need to know where they fit in the global arena of geopolitics. That's why it's so important that the University of the Bahamas and countries in these little small nations teach their people international relations, political science, because you need to understand how you're operating out of 242. Just because 242 is not the center of the world. You're a pimple on the backside of the world, and you need to know how you fit in. So when you make ambassadors and you appoint a guy as Minister of Foreign Affairs, they know what their role are. They know what they need to do. They know how to bring home the bacon. And so far in the Bahamas, we haven't seen ambassadors bringing home the bacon. We haven't seen them leveraging their abilities.
We always seem to negotiate from not a position of strength. You know what I mean?
Just some jobs. Just give me some jobs. I want some jobs.
Yeah.
I'm looking for some jobs.
I don't think the prime minister has eased off his position, with the carbon credits and all that. But I feel like one of our strengths, if we could call it that, is knowing that the world gains nothing by destroying us. I mean, I've heard people say, the expat talk is that the problem with the Bahamas is too many Bahamians, right? So if they could get rid of the Bahamians and make us the 51st state or whatever, how many states America got now, right? Maybe that, but.
Listen, I wouldn't say that. The problem with listen, I was at a meeting last week. They had the Bahamas Investment Forum.
Yeah.
Met Brave Davis. I gave him a letter and say, hey, boy, y'all forget about me, but that's all right. I go win this Palm Beach County race just to prove something to you. But the problem is when you reject the diaspora, who might have had global experience, who don't live in the 242. I think there's someone in the biblical, I don't get too much into the biblical things, but they said a prophet could never become popular in his own country.
Basically, right.
Always
Not
have
honored.
to go. The Bahamas needs to be able to benefit from the diaspora. The U.S. benefits from foreigners in their country enormously that go out and look at China. China sends the majority of their students overseas to foreign universities to do what? Bring back the bacon and help develop the motherland. We in Nassau, we running them. No, don't come back here. You ain't taking my job.
Look how we treating Rick Fox right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you ain't taking my job. You don't get teach me how to use Microsoft Excel 2020.
Get in line. You don't know real Bahamian, but now guess what? They ain't sure if Rick Fox is Bahamian, but they sure. I hope.
So we have local identity crisis that we have to deal with. That crab syndrome that cripples a developing state such as the Bahamas. And on the world sphere, we will always be a developing state. We'll never hit first world status because we have third world thinking mentality. Yeah. We don't want to use. We're not in the business of sending our people all over the place, even if they go for 10, 15 years, and then harnessing them back in.
Yeah.
We in Miami, we in West Palm Beach, begging investors or trying to get investors to come and give them carte blanche and a red carpet in your own country, what you wouldn't even do for Bahamians. So I truly don't get it. I'm lost and totally, I don't know.
The status quo. The status quo.
Yeah,
the status quo has to be protected at all costs.
Has to be protected at all costs because the status quo is your identity, is your people. But this is a big conversation that sorry I came late because I had that meeting, but we need to pontificate on this some more next week because this conversation ain't going nowhere when it comes to what's going on in the region and the war. So hopefully y'all have enough hedge left to keep y'all prices down. Like I said, the prices here is already above $1 a gallon already.
Wow.
I mean, sorry, it went up to now. We're at I think it was 330 something, and then some other gas station, and that's the Costco price. Because Costco was $2.66 early in the week, and the same damn gas today is $3.30. So they went up almost $1, and then the non-Costco stations are above $1 increase. So that's $4.30, $4.25. So I don't know how y'all hedging, and we ain't hedging.
We get smart people over here. You got hedges. Anyway, thank you.
You know what that hedge is? That hedge is profit that they making over there. They should have been giving you the break on. That's the hedging.
Our special guest today, Dr. Rudolph Tinker. Thank you so much, Dr. Tinker. Thank you to the listeners, to the callers. Of course, the Talking Heads are up next. Naughty and MJ. Keep it locked here on 96.9 Guardian Radio. Fresh news, smart talk all day. Namastu, family.